It. So you can actually use molasses to make your own brown sugar, because brown sugar is just white sugar that molasses has been added to. So I've got a cup of sugar here in a food processor. You can also do this by hand in a bowl if you want. But for a cup of sugar, if you're looking for light brown sugar, all you need is about a tablespoon of molasses. I like dark brown, so I go in with 2 tablespoons of molasses. Then all you need to do is give that a blitz to combine. And as easy as that, you have got brown sugar. Absolute dream. And it's not going hard. You can tell your friends and family that you're like, I made your brown sugar to order, which is always fun. Okay, this is a good thing. I love having obviously a stocked pantry and baking cupboard, but my #1 thing for stress-free holiday hacks is having cookie dough in my freezer. We're gonna be making slice and bake cookies later this week that are super tasty, but today I wanted to show you how to make my mom's ginger molasses cookies. They are amazing. And they're perfect for the freezer. You can actually freeze the dough all rolled up for later. Fresh baked cookies all season long. Okay, let's get to work on these cookies. Now, I've got a stand mixer here. I've got half a cup of butter in there. Into there, I'm gonna go in with half a cup of white sugar. I'm also gonna go in with half a cup of brown sugar, and as we just discussed, you can make it yourself if you want. I'm someone who typically buys it because I use it very quickly, but again, it's always handy to have the molasses on hand. So I'm gonna go in with half a cup of that as well. Now, I am using a stand mixer for this, but you could do this by hand if you really want to work out, or you could use a hand mixer. That would work too. So I'm going to give that a blitz just to combine, just until that butter and sugar comes together. I'm going to give it a bit of a scrape down, though. Typically, when you're mixing, especially in a stand mixer, it tends to fling everything out to the sides of the bowl, and it's not going to actually incorporate. So once we get about there, let's open her up. Oh, I locked it. Mary Berg, look at the things. Okay, give that a little bit of a scrape. And that's gonna start coming together. Now, typically I would mix this for a little bit longer, but to be honest, I have made these cookies in about 5 minutes, and I've creamed things very little, and they still turn out, so they're pretty foolproof. So into here, I'm gonna also add in that molasses. Yes, the brown sugar has molasses in it, but these are molasses cookies, so they really need that molasses. Now, molasses, one thing about it, very sticky. So what I like to do is I get my measuring cup, I'm doing a 1/4 cup, and I get a little bit of non-stick cooking spray. I'm just gonna spray that, and then I'm gonna pour the molasses in. That way, in theory, it should just actually slip out as opposed to, oh, that was nice. Like, pretty good. Wait, let's see. Like, pretty much clean. That's really not bad. That makes cleaning a lot easier for everybody, so that's always a good thing. All right, so I'm gonna put that aside, and I'm just gonna get that blitzing doing its thing. Now, as that starts to come together, you want to add in an egg and a little bit of vanilla. Now, this only takes 1 egg, but you can see that beautiful molasses flavor. And again, you want your eggs to be room temperature if possible, because that's going to make it so the butter doesn't start to solidify and turn into little clumps. All right, that's looking beautiful. About a half a teaspoon of vanilla extract is going in as well. Perfect. As you can tell, I free pour, and that was more like a teaspoon, but that's fine. 'Tis the season. All right, that's looking great. So I'm gonna turn that off, and we're gonna get to work on the dry ingredients. Now, for the dry ingredients, I'm sticking kind of with what my mom originally did, but I've added a couple additions to make sure these are really nice and chewy. So the first thing I need is a cup of all-purpose flour. If your flour has been sitting around, you might need to sift it. I hate sifting, so I avoid that, and I just go through my flour a little bit quickly. But if it looks a little clumpy, give it a sift just through a fine mesh sieve. Now, that's 1 cup of all-purpose flour. If that's all you have, you could do another cup of all-purpose flour. But for the ultimate chew on these cookies that give it almost like a coffee shop ginger molasses cookie vibe, I'm gonna go in with a cup of bread flour. Now, the bread flour is gonna increase the amount of gluten going on in these cookies, which is gonna give it a little bit more chew. It's really, really tasty. We're not mixing a lot, so we're not kneading this and making it into a bread, but it's just gonna give that chewiness, which is gonna be a dream. Now, to enhance that even more and keep these fresh for longer, I'm gonna go in with 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. Cornstarch helps kind of absorb water a little bit differently. Again, keeps things nice and fresh. If you don't have cornstarch, you don't need to do it. You can just leave it out, they'll be fine. All right, now into there, we're gonna go in with 1½ teaspoons of baking soda. Molasses is a little bit acidic, so the baking soda reacts nicely with that, giving you a little bit of a puff. And then we have to do those classic spices, which again, are not from 1988. So we have got a teaspoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of ginger, and a 1/4 teaspoon of cloves. It's the season for cloves. They're so good. A little goes a long way though, so I'm gonna add those in. Give that a whisk to combine. I love adding spices because then you can actually tell when your dry ingredients are actually mixed. Because if it's just like baking powder, baking soda, and flour, you're like, I don't know, I guess this is fine. Now I'm gonna season that up with a little bit of salt, just to kind of counteract the sugar that's going on. And then I'm gonna add this right into my stand mixer. So this is looking great. Pop that on in. And then I just wanna mix that just until combined. Since there's the bread flour in there, you really don't wanna overmix this because then it can get a little bit chewy in a bad way, not chewy in a good way, if that makes sense. All right, this is looking great. That molasses is gonna keep things really nice and super tasty, really moist. So while this comes together, let's talk what's going on in this bowl right here. My mom typically would roll these in just plain white sugar. You could use sanding sugar that you get at bulk food stores as well, but I'm using turbinado sugar. Now this is the sugar that you get when you go out for coffee and you get the little brown packet of sugar. This is what it is. So look around in your purse. You'll need about 20 to 40 bags if you're doing this. You can also get it just at a bulk food store. That'll be absolutely perfect. But this is super easy to do. So we've got our beautiful cookie dough here. Which way does it come off? Nope. She's gonna stay there. She's not Yar. We're going for it. Okay, so I'm gonna use a disher. So I like to scoop these into about 2 tablespoons worth. You can go bigger, they'll bake for a little bit longer, but just scoop those out and then plop that into the sugar. I'm gonna give that a little bit of a roll just to coat in that sugar. That's gonna give you a little bit of texture, make it absolutely beautiful. Pop those onto a parchment-lined baking sheet, and I don't squish them. Now at this point, once you've got them all rolled in that sugar and good to go, you could put this whole pan in the freezer, freeze them solid, and then transfer them into a zip top bag. Once they're in there, they only go into a 350-degree oven for only about 14 minutes from frozen. They're gonna bake up perfectly, right? You can have 1 cookie if you want. Why would you? I don't know. But you can have a fresh baked cookie anytime you want. I'm gonna pop this into a 350-degree oven. This only goes in for 12 minutes from fresh. You can also pop that into the fridge, but the thing about the freezer is you can keep this cookie dough for up to 3 months, and to be honest, I like the texture better if it's been frozen. Once they're done, they look craggly, they kind of crack, they look absolutely perfect. Really good for your holiday cookie plate. If you're putting something out for the big guy on the big night, I typically let them cool on my pan for about a minute or 2 just to solidify them, but they look so good. They are chewy. Take a look at this, the inside. Oh, they're chewy, they're moist. Dunk it in a little bit of milk, and you're living life. Okay. Guys, that tastes like my childhood, and that is a very good thing. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.